Oh, we might be live already. Let me see.
Well, I shouldn't have said what I said about that person.
Oh no, you sure shouldn't have said that. Oh yeah, we are live on Facebook. All right. And all I'm gonna do is check YouTube, make sure everything is rolling. We are live. Double live. All right.
So, have we decided if we're gonna honorable mention first or last? Have we decided that?
I mean, we're live. So I think we should do it last.
I think you're right.
You came up with the brilliant idea. Okay.
Hey,
Oh,
man.
was trying to join a Zoom. Yes, I know. We are live on Facebook. Yeah. Jordan wants to know already, can he join the Zoom or not? That's something we were just talking about. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Dave, what do you think?
Well, we're about to turn off our faces anyway,
Oh yeah, that's true.
so it doesn't really matter.
Okay. All right.
But also,
Well, then
what's about to go down?
Jordan, let's just roll through and maybe at the end we will have a thing where everybody can join. How do you feel about that,
Yeah, that's a
Dave?
good idea. That's a good idea. If people want to jump in and make some comments, have
Okay.
commentary, opinions, complain, we could have that
Yeah.
because there's going to be complaints.
Well, as designers, we are not shy to having anything that we design or create be critiqued at all.
Man, this is a hell of a week to talk about that. I've had I've had all kinds of wild presentations in the last 10 days. But all right, man, Black Made Awards,
Second annual
second annual.
Black Mirror. We're doing it twice and recording. So
Can't believe we did it again.
yeah, so this is pared down. This is Dave and I, and
It's pared down, but it's also paired up because more people entered this year.
more people entered, and I was kind of down about it for a little bit, but then looking at it today again, I realized how many people submitted and how much beautiful work there actually was. I mean, what is it, three times as much or two
It's like
times as much?
it's close to three times as many entries as last year, which is pretty cool.
Which is quite incredible. And we've definitely learned a lot about what it takes to get the community to submit. Apparently, some of the people in our community are still dealing with some issues of confidence and are slow to realize that it's good for you to put yourself out there so that other people can kind of see where they are. So we definitely want to thank all of the people who participated this time. Hope you participate next year. It really was inspiring for us, and we hope you enjoyed the process.
Yeah, and you know what, and it's not just to make sure that you don't think it's just a group of us messing around voting. We should probably talk about who the judges were.
Sure, we should talk about who the judges were, and let's talk
So
about how we met them
because we're talking
also.
about entering, so we should talk about the kind of people that your work is getting in front of. These are like agency owners. These are like
Mhm.
designers who've been in the game for 15, 20 years. People that you want to show your work to. Like if you've ever thought to yourself, how can I get my portfolio in front of somebody? This would be how to do that, is
Yeah.
entering this sort of contest.
Yes, Gabby and Facebook says more women, hopefully. Gabby, yeah, sure, you can judge next year. Not a problem. It was we did try. Trust me, we did try.
We begged,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
cajoled.
right. Well, I mean, it's not bad. So Chanel Wheeler, Mona, Diane Holton, Ariel, and then David,
The other David.
Dave. Yeah, I was like, there's two Davids? Yeah, David,
Wooten.
Wooten, and who's that last person? I think that's it.
Was it 4 women and 2 men, 3 men?
It might have been this year.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see at the end. We'll see at the end. Okay. So we were trying to decide a couple of things. If there was so much good work, the judges judged, and Dave and I also went through the work and wanted to acknowledge some of the work that was submitted that's just outstanding, that we believe fits into the AAGD mindset of the design that we love to look at. We both spend a lot of time looking at your portfolios and having these really detailed discussions about it. Y'all don't know about it. We can never record it. Why, Dave?
We could argue and we curse.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna say we're always super nice. We're working on it and working on being more constructive. But we just wanted to make sure through this award show that we recognize the people in our community who are doing good work.
Yeah, we're going to show the winners, and then we're going to run through some stuff that we thought was awesome.
Yes.
And not in a way that we think maybe they should have won. It's not like that, but we just want to make sure that work that deserved a light on it gets a light on it in front of the community.
Yeah. And also, Dave, we wanted to talk about sort of why an award show, and then the argument we have about Black design aesthetic and by what standards are you judging the work that comes in? Because sometimes the work that we see, we still have this mindset to compare it to the things that we've seen in the past. And that is something we're actively working on decolonizing.
Yeah, like I still have it in my head sometimes. When I think about what am I going to judge this against, and I think about all the great design I've seen, I'm going to be looking at, most of the time, design created by an older white man. So then what am I doing?
Yeah.
Because I'll think of it in terms of, oh man, I love that logo. I love that magazine layout. I love that branding suite. But then you start to think, okay, what am I really embedding in my brain? And then how is that affecting the community I want to communicate with? So yeah, we've talked about how to set new standards that don't involve style, that don't involve referencing older work. So that's going to be interesting. It's almost like we've got to create our own Black designer vocabulary.
Yeah.
To determine what is good design. So
yeah.
That's something that we're going to definitely have to have a community chat about that to get everybody's input, because the last thing we want to do is continue making mistakes. From the past. So that's going to be a very interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah, and a lot of things we noticed, there's a lot of data we gathered from looking at a lot of portfolios, and we're not going to keep y'all much longer, but one of the things that we've noticed is just consistency with style is something that we don't see a lot of, and especially through illustration, that's something that we see designers need to tighten up. Another thing is love in relationship with typography. I think that's a challenge for a lot of people. But as you know, you've got a bunch of people in the group who can help out with that. Just don't be afraid to reach out and show your work. All right. With 707, okay, with no further ado, let me share my screen.
What category are we starting with?
Illustration? Branding? We'll see.
No. Let's start with print.
Let's start with print. Oh, you're gonna make me redo the
order? Because I want to save. I like that tasty stuff at the end.
But I mean, I still got to go through the presentation.
That's true.
It's already set. Okay. All right. Deshelle, Jordan, we're happy you submitted. Also, if there is anything that y'all want us to do, we see your comments on Facebook. You need us to slow down. You need us to have more dialogue about things. You need anything, let us know, and we will try to catch it. And on with the show. I think the first category is illustration.
Do it.
All right. So we had a bunch of illustrations that were quite tight in very different illustration styles. And
They were all over the place. They were, I mean, they
they
were
were.
technical, they were hand-drawn, they were loose, they were tight, they were colorful, they were stark, they were all over the place.
Yep, very graphic collages. But I think in the end, the judges voted for this one person. You may understand why. And the winner is
Forgot about the soundbite.
Forget about the soundbite. Mr. Derek Whitfield. Two
Is
times
anybody
in a row.
surprised?
I mean, he had some competitors this time. Some like competitors.
He did. It wasn't a cakewalk.
No shade to anybody from last year, but it's this project.
Yeah, that's just dope.
It is. And I think, maybe after 3 years in a row, we cut people off. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But the thing I think that stands out about, of course, is about his work is his illustration style. It's so unique.
And you know what I love about it? Like it would be really easy, but okay, look at the five faces together. He's doing a style that uses math in a way that is infinite. None of those faces look like they're related in any way. Like stylistically, it's all the same thing, and we can tell that, right? But he can adjust noses, mouths, eyes, foreheads, cheekbones, chins to have completely different personalities show up in a style that he's got down. So it's just a thing that I feel like is going to be evergreen for a while.
Yeah. And you can see the practice in the dedication, in the geometry. I've watched videos of him do his drawings, and it's quite incredible. I just think it really shows up in the work.
And also like how he's doing the texture now. Like the first stuff I saw a couple of years ago, everything was really slick. And now this stuff is starting to feel almost like rustic's not the right word, but there's definitely a texture to things that it makes it feel a little more artsy, I guess, is a hacky term, but my vocabulary is escaping me. But you know what I'm saying, right? It feels a little more, I don't want, handmade, or a little more rough, a little more authentic, a little more
right
for the culture. So yeah, I really like
it. Like it would be really easy to do this in a way that it was so computer generated that it lost feeling, but that's not the case at all. That's probably that soul that he found a way of mixing into the stuff that he does. So Congratulations, second year in a row, the Gentle Beast, Mr. Derek
I like
Whitfield.
the nod to the Tuskegee Airmen in the top left. I like that.
You catch those things. Okay, our next category. Randy. This is the category that Dave probably loves because he's so good at it. What do you think about the entries that we have for branding this year?
Well, it's one of those things that, when we were looking through them, I had some things that popped in my mind that were instant favorites, but of course we weren't, we couldn't judge. This was one of those things where I kind of wished I could judge, but it went through every last one of these sort of went through a gauntlet of 7 people poking arrows, shooting arrows. So I feel good about what the decisions were, so. But I will say stuff was all over the place. Stuff almost like the illustrations. There were things that were typographically strong. There were things that felt like they were hand done, hand drawn, hand lettering. This will be interesting to see. Let's hear it.
Okay. Dave, poker face. And the winner is.
I can't see our face.
Oh, that's right. Janelle Nelson, get into campaign for my future app. You'll see how this makes sense in the long run. So this was a branding campaign for the city of Chicago by J&J Creative. And Dave, why do you think the judges picked this one?
I think there might be font fatigue. I think there
Mm.
might be symmetry fatigue. When you've looked at perfectly symmetrical logos forever and you look at the clean, perfectly pristine typography, I think that the one thing that made this stand out was it did feel like it went from napkin sketch right to the final presentation. That's the thing that I felt like it's truly the only thing that separated. You know, there is actual typography on here, like an actual font in that lower part. But like, look at those T's. Those you can tell that's not a font. The T's don't match.
Right. Yeah.
So
And I think,
I really felt like this went from sketch to final really quickly, and I'll bet the energy of that is why the judges chose it.
agreed. And I do like the fact that things are not I think as you were saying before, so stacked and so typical that it's
Yeah.
off balance a lot, and that balance leans into motion. And I think the application of it in several instances is really strong also. Okay.
Yeah, it's just unexpected. I think that yeah, I think it's unexpected. So when you know, when you're going through somebody's logo portfolio, there's a lot of people leaning into specific fonts, and some people even post a font choice as a logo design. Like we've all
Mhm.
seen that, where it's somebody
Mhm.
just, oh, I'm just gonna pick Gotham and I'm not gonna do anything to it. And I'm gonna put it in a color and hey, that's my logo for that particular project.
Mhm.
Um, this feels the exact opposite. It looked like somebody got down with a sketchbook, and that's what it is.
Yeah. Yep. Feels like it's igniting. I like that. Okay. Moving on. Next category, logos. Dave, I see your
Very
mouth forming.
controversial, very controversial category.
Controversial how, Dave?
Well, so the judges do what they do, and we think what we think. I'm not saying, yeah, I don't think they got anything wrong. It's all subjective, but there were so many good. So last year we did a winner for illustration and a we almost did like two winners. Like we did a winner. I'm not saying, yeah, I don't think that, and an honorable mention for the illustration, because they were both so good, right? We had Donald Wooten as an honorable mention. There were probably two or three logos that could have been the winner, I feel like.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's almost like if we showed you all four of the ones that got the top votes, any one of those could have been the actual winner. And the votes between them were like, it was like two votes, like just a difference between two votes from
Yeah.
winner to second place. So
Yeah.
that's why I say
Yeah.
controversial. There must have been some churn happening in the
Yeah.
judges,
Some sleepless nights. Some sleepless.
or a sleepless 45 minutes.
Right. Right. Okay. Let's get to
Hit
the
it,
winner, Dave.
hit it.
Jamar Pierce for Triotics. Check this out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't even, my logo work is never this detailed and well thought out. This is ridiculous in a good way. Dave, yours probably is.
Yeah, this could have been like, I wonder if we have the other pages for it to
Yeah, we
scroll.
do.
This could have been in the branding category too.
Yeah.
We like to leave people in the category that they submitted. But this could have easily been moved over to the branding category, because it's well thought out.
Yeah, it's very well thought out. Very clean. That's stuff we like to see coming from our community. So that's an excellent job. I just realized I looked at the symbol system again and I was like, oh, I get what they were trying to do. And I love the brand that they're doing it for. So,
And it's not
and
a
the
cliche.
typeface.
I was gonna say it's not a cliche font. I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
the average font that you would have predicted. That's what's nice about it.
Yeah, and it looks kind of medical and friendly and almost indigenous at the same time, especially with that pairing.
Yeah, that icon could go rough in certain occasions. It could go slick in certain occasions.
Yeah.
I even think here on the screen you can tell that that's going to work on an email signature. That's going to work really small too.
Yeah, and I really love the fact that they didn't put it in a square or a circle. They just use this other little shape that I can't say I've ever used that. Yeah. Okay.
Was there anything else
Uh
in this family of things, or was that, I think, because
I,
there were,
yeah, I mean if we want to pull up the whole
well, we can do that
branding
later. I
sheet,
don't want to
yeah,
get
we
in the
can do
way of
that
the next
later. Yeah.
winner. I don't want to get in the way of the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
winner. So
Fair enough. Okay. Next category. Print. Well, then if that's the case, this one's controversial also.
yeah,
Because I mean, and maybe it's up to us to do some more like refined tweaking on the definition. But even if we didn't, this is an excellent piece. I hope y'all have seen it in the book, the group before. And if not, this is going to be your first time, and it's a beautiful piece. So let's get ready for the winner, and it is Howard Foster Jr. for the cover of this magazine in Atlanta, which is just dope.
another thing
The
that could have
cover,
been another category, another thing that could have been in the illustration category.
which if you're strategic and you don't want to deal with Derek
Right,
Whitfield,
right. If you don't want to fight Whitfield, that could also put it in the print category. You're absolutely
yeah,
right about that. I didn't even think about that. That's hilarious.
disqualified. No, I'm kidding.
Like, I ain't messing with Whitfield. I'm gonna put this in print.
No, yeah.
That's actually
So the other thing I really love about it is the color palette. It's just beautiful.
yeah. This isn't you can make an argument about the font choice for Atlanta, but this every other part of it, there's nothing that leans into what I would call traditional design. This feels really original. I mean,
Yeah.
I
I
know
love
why
the
I know why the judges chose it because it's just the most impactful option within the print category. There was just
it's sophisticated.
and it's also telling a story, and it makes me want to dive into more of this person's work.
Yeah. And into the magazine.
Yeah. That in terms of what an illustration is supposed to do. I mean, all the old heads remember what it was like to stand in front of a news what were those called? When you're in a bookstore in front of the news,
The newspaper stands,
all that
magazine
newsstand, there you
racks.
go, newsstand, right? Like it's like 1886. Well,
The
you don't remember what it
news.
was like to stand in front of all the magazines, and
Me?
if an illustration or a photo grabbed you, you would pick up that magazine, and it would increase the chances
Yeah.
of you buying that magazine. And I would
Yeah.
absolutely pick this magazine up.
Yeah.
I would pick
I
it up and look for the cover story to see if there were more illustrations by this person on the cover story. So I would absolutely pick this up.
yep. And then I'd be like, is the illustrator black? Is he black? This is dope.
Yeah.
Is he black?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we are moving to the last category of this short award show. And the category is
Longer than
motion.
last year.
It was longer than last year's. We just don't have the panel, but we do have some things we want to talk about after this.
We're gonna get into some honorable mentions after this.
Yeah. So what we didn't receive a ton of motion stuff, but the stuff we did get was in just another wide array between like some commercials, some Instagram reels, video, and I forgot what the other one was. Something in After
It
Effects.
looked like a slideshow with music playing over it, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a good thing. Before we show the winner, that's a good thing worth talking about too. Like the ease that all this technology is making motion nowadays. I feel like that should be, and I'm really happy with the winner that we have. We should probably start judging that category. I would imagine that category is going to be judged harder because say 10
Yeah,
years ago, you knew the investment in time and software skill to get animation done, right?
right.
Now the bar is not that high anymore in terms of software you need to know.
That's true, but I mean, what if somebody uses motion in simple and elegant ways to convey a message better than other people, and they haven't been on like After Effects for 20 years.
Well, I mean, design is always the cream will rise to the top, but I'm
Mm,
saying that I think that it's open to more people that have less design skill, I guess is what I'm getting at.
gotcha.
Like the tools are so powerful that any Joe Schmo can make something move with with the motion effect. And what's that guy's name? Ken Burns.
Oh, yeah, truly.
Put some soft guitar over it and makes it look like you did something.
Soft guitar, Dave.
I'm just saying that because that's what I did on my last video on my Instagram.
Okay.
McClinton_design. Go see it.
Gotcha. All right.
All right.
All right. So winner
Winner.
is we gotta do a more black beat than this next time.
Oh, I know.
Okay. Barry Lane, New Mount Calvary Homecoming Reel. And here we go.
Yeah, that
All
was
right.
that, and I mean this as the greatest compliment. That was as black as you can get.
Yeah, we need to follow that
Drum line,
beat.
that was I loved all that. I loved that. You're not gonna see that in communication arts. Like that they would
Yeah.
know what to do with it.
No. Yeah. So I'm glad we celebrated that.
Yeah.
All right. So we would like to thank our judges. And I actually wouldn't mind talking a little bit about where we met the judges. David Tan of the Tantrum Agency. I believe I knew through two different people. One was Nikita Pope, and then the other was the Graphic Artists Guild. And I reached out to him on LinkedIn and I was like, oh man, your reels are incredible. And from there, we sort of developed a relationship, and he has shown up to some design chats. Very humble guy, great guy to know, and was very eager to help out. And so I want to thank David for giving us his time and talent.
Yeah,
You want to
absolutely.
do?
He's even on we have an interview with him that we could repost.
Mhm.
There were some really insightful things on there about running and starting your own agency. So I think that's worth a repost actually.
Yes. And then Donald Wooten, y'all know the man. Y'all seen his artwork. Thank you so much. David Butler. Dave, you have a relationship with David Butler more than I do.
Yeah,
He
we
reached
worked
out
on
to-
we worked on a project together. It was a lot of fun. I really like
Mhm.
how Hugh House does their business. I've never seen design presentations and meetings done the way they do it. There is music. There's the reading of the client's brand promise at the beginning of every meeting, so no one can ever forget what you're there to do. It's just a really nice way they do things over there, and it's a very buttoned up but very cool. I shouldn't say buttoned up, buttoned down, but it's they have it together. They definitely have their stuff together, but it feels fun and loose to hang out and work with those dudes. So yeah, it's I like them a lot.
Yep. Diane Houghton. She's been around for a minute. She runs AIGA DC. She's in our group, and she is an incredible woman to know. She did some work a while ago that was picked up by, I want to say, HP on Instagram. And she spends a lot of her time finding artists to feature in the stuff that she does. We hung out at Hue once, and it's a pleasure to have her give her time to this Humble Award Show. Next, Chenille Wheeler. You want to talk about it, Dave, or you want me to run it?
Yeah, go ahead and run it because I think you know more about her program than I do.
I'm just learning about her program. I know she's been in our group giving tips for beginning designers for a very long time and in Black Designers United. Great person to reach out to if you're starting with design and you want to better understand the fundamental basics of how to design and run your business. She's a great person to reach out to. Does phenomenal branding work, and we're really glad to have your presence and input in this show. You want to do Mona or Ariel? I can do both. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. Mona is great. She's another design veteran. It seems like in her portfolio, she's leaning into some illustration and even art, which is I think a natural progression, but someone who's got a wide array of experience and has been through it in terms of a creative, in terms of having to talk about your work and back up your work. So she was an ideal choice for a judge. And I probably, we'll shake it up next year, but I think that I would want to have her on the judging board again.
Yeah. And it is 4 ladies and 3 guys. Look at that. Ariel was one of the last year's winners. With her, I think she won logo or branding. It might have been branding.
It was branding because she had that beautiful pattern. She had that beautiful pattern behind the typography.
Yep. Good designer and illustrator, and she is in the group. Thank you so much, Ariel, for your time. And now is when I stop sharing all of this. And we really wanted to celebrate the people who submitted work because we know it takes a little bit of bravery to get your work out there. And we wanted to just show some of the work that we saw. So 1, other people can be encouraged to submit. And 2, just because we want to celebrate the people who take a risk. That's something that is what we've been talking about as a theme for the year. I believe Russell Toynes threw that out there when we were talking about Black Made and trying to think about the other things that Black fit with. Black risk is something that I talk to a lot of people about because I fear that our designers have been systematically taught to not take risk and to see failure as something that is too monumental and too damaging to take the chance. And that's something that we would like to help all of you conquer through the programming that we're doing this year. Because Dave and I know we take a lot of risks, even when we're working with clients who may be doing really good things, but sometimes may have some issues, and we still decide to work with them no matter what.
Yeah, we spent some time. One of the risks we took was a financial risk by continuing to work for someone who hadn't paid us, but we believed in what they were doing so much that it was like, is it really the kids that benefit from that program? Is it their fault? So we gotta,
right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, we'll keep doing this work for a little bit. Risk can take a lot of different forms. Another risk we took recently was to ignore client feedback and give them the logo they needed rather than the logo they asked for. So and just ignored feedback. There was some specific feedback and we were like, nah, this is what you need. And it worked out. But those moments of risk can be crippling if you don't have confidence in what you're doing and belief in what your foundation is. So yeah, it's something worth talking about.
Yeah, and it's something that the community needs desperately, even if it means risking connecting with another person in the group who you admire and just sending them a DM like, hey, I've been looking at your work. I just want to talk to you for like 15 minutes to see where we connect. Man, please do that this year. Yeah. And as the year progresses, we'll be talking more about risk. We're working on the N-Word podcast and mag still. The first issue will be Black Risk. We are collecting articles and essays for it now. I think it's going to be out in a couple of months because we wanted to put all of the award winners in the first issue of this magazine. So be on the lookout for that. We are recording Inward podcast still. Matter of fact, Dave, we should meet this Sunday.
Yeah, we were definitely, we have like four or five eps if you include the interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was a good call to put the winners in the first issue.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have just been like an ego piece if we hadn't. It would have just been whatever. So I think it's cool to actually be able to publicize the winners in that thing. And by the way, let's not forget that the winners are getting a beautiful wooden physical award that'll be pretty dope too. So that's going to be fun to show that off.
Yeah, and if you need help to understand how to leverage winning an award like this, talk to Derek Whitfield. He's the man. He can tell you what to do. If you ever check him out on LinkedIn, he's posting like a beast. So if you have any problems,
next year unless we block him.
Yeah, let's make him a judge. Then he can't win. Cripple him.
Hey man, yeah, if you're an illustrator, bring it.
Yeah.
There's your target. There's your Rushmore.
Yeah.
Come fight the monster in the illustration section.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to some of these. Let's shine some lights on people.
Yes. Boom. All right. So this is some of the work that we saw that we thought was just incredible. And we wanted to show it just to show you the talent of the people in our community and to tip our hats off to people who we think are doing very good design and kind of pushing the needle forward. This is Derek Scott. I'm reading what Derek wrote on Facebook. Dave, you read it. So this is hand lettered. And I believe she brings this into Photoshop or Procreate to paint. And out of all the things that came in, I just thought, man, I've seen her work before, and this is definitely beautiful progress for hand lettering. I love the color combination. I even like the little stars, little dots. It could easily be overdone. I think she manages it. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, I think we've all seen this kind of thing, but this one it just has a little extra pizzazz to it or something. I don't know how to put it really, but I think to me it's those the textures inside the letter forms that are that just feel a little more unique than the typical purely vector, really clean examples of these things that can be kind of boring, but this one has some gumption to it.
The other, I said pop. Deshelle Jordan says beautiful. I love hand lettering. This makes her so happy. Oh, Derica says thank you. The other one, this is branding. We had a lot of really well thought out, well put together campaigns. I think way more this year than we had last year.
Yeah.
Which made it hard because we're looking at all this information and we're trying to take the logo at face value at the same time. But this is one that did not win, but we thought that it was pretty clean, pretty well thought out. Dave, since you're the logo guy, don't call me the logo guy. Let's talk about the combination of this illustration with the type pairing.
Yeah, it's one of those things of we've run into this a lot where it seems like the chosen option, the chosen icon is something that's cliche, but it doesn't, the execution of it doesn't look cliche at all.
No, right.
And I think there's something interesting about the idea that this really hinges on that thumb, doesn't it?
Yeah. Nice.
The thumb is the thing that makes it what it is. It's
just
I wonder tiny little details. You take that thumb away, and I don't know that's a hand.
Right. Yeah. And I love the fact how this pairs with like the curvature here somehow that just makes a beautiful
It does
pairing and
look
the
like the
system.
little, yeah, it looks like the curve on the R. It's not quite, but it looks like it could be.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's something interesting about those things together.
Yeah. Comp set, colors. So yeah, this we look at this and we're like, this is pretty dope. This is Jordan Robinson's work. Next one. Gabby.
That's just dope.
Um,
That
that is just,
that's just absolutely dope.
yeah.
It feels like what's the word I'm looking for? It feels like vandalism.
Yeah.
It feels like somebody broke into something with a magic marker and got up on a and messed with somebody's stuff. That I love that. It's just really dope and cool, and I just really like that.
Yeah, I think I love what you said about like breaking in and graffiti because it feels like a rebellion. It feels like a very well thought out rebellion. It feels like somebody learning how to or telling people that they're reclaiming culture and making
Yep.
sure that they are represented no matter what the standard has been in the Western culture in the United States or wherever
Yeah.
this statue exists. And I love this addition of the cell phone. That's so great.
Yeah, but the hair and the earrings, it's a takeover. It's absolutely a cultural takeover.
Yeah, get them back, Gabby.
Take it
Let them know where you are. Yeah. Oh, let me make sure. Sarai Payne.
Do we have that pronunciation right?
Uh, she has a pronunciation key. Sarai. Yep. Sarai. Sarai. Watch. Boom. Oh, you can't see that screen. Never mind. um, thought this was really interesting. I guess this person, I don't know if she's Black. I feel like she's from the 1900s or the 1800s. I'm not even sure. But the pairing of, the texture here and the flowers, I don't even know what's going on right here, but it's just really engaging to me. I guess we'll have the opportunity to like contact her and ask her at some point in time. Dave, what did you love
Yeah,
about it?
I'd like to know. I'd like to know what the impetus was for this, and it's another one of those things that I see this and I want to see the rest of the portfolio. I want to see
Right.
what the rest of the work looks like.
Yeah.
It's something we didn't want to gloss over. Like I didn't want to not show that to the group.
Yeah. Eyes to the man. Oh, Gabby says she's planning on more. I'm glad, Gabby. That's awesome. I can't wait to see that series. I hope you pitch it to like some magazines or something. That's great editorial stuff. The other one, Myra. This is such a classic looking logo. And Dave, I am gonna yield to you since you are the person who is far more well, but Dave thinks in logos. It's amazing. I don't know if you've ever had conversations with him.
Well, this is the thing I like about this. I wanted to show this is I like that it's a W, but it's not. Like there's no, I'm sure the font was the root of it, but there's no that's not a letter, but it is. Like the
Right.
negative space is telling you what you need to know. If
Yeah.
it didn't have the word publishers on it, I would still think, if it didn't have that description there, I would still think I'd be thinking about library or book or
Hmm.
publisher or editor or writer. I would get what was happening.
Yeah.
And
It's a
I
great,
would be in the right ballpark if it had no text on it at all. And I think that is the mark of a great logo is that it gets you in the neighborhood. If you take
yeah.
off all the contextual cues, you remove all the text, what is that really saying? And there's no it does it without really trying to be too cute with it too. That's what's nice about it. It's just matter of
Yeah. And it's a
here's
solid
the
foundation to play with.
publishing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent work. For packaging, it's not a category. We probably should start working on a packaging category. I know we dropped it in with branding,
Yeah.
And so this one by Amelia Hollis, we thought was really nice. I do love when we see work that is restrained and well thought out. And I think that this conveys that. I really enjoy the patterns, especially the ones where there's a subtle color change. I like the fact that the type isn't all over the place. It's very contained, and I think it gets across the branding very clearly. Dave, what do you think?
And the color palette's nice too. It feels like, I mean, I'd have to read deeper on it, but when I look at this, I instantly think, oh, I'll bet that's healthy. You know what I mean? Like the beet red, the green, like I look at that and I think, oh, well, that's not the typical drink stuff you see sitting on shelves that have like bright neon colors and it's probably filled with chemicals and that kind of thing. Like this feels like, oh, this is going to be some natural stuff. This is going to be, you know what I mean? Like it just feels like
simplistic essence.
it feels like it's going to be good for me. And I imagine
Yeah.
part of I hadn't seen the brief, but I would imagine that was part of the brief.
This screams less than 9 grams of sugar, which is great. Okay, got one more. This is by Miss Collins, Bun Me. And, you know, the print category, there were a couple of different things that were submitted, but in terms of organizing information, that's a lot of what we do, AAGD does, is organizing reports, graphs, and information. And out of everything that was submitted for print, we thought that this was probably one of the most comprehensive and I don't want to say pretty, but most appealing print submissions that we've seen in a second.
Yeah, it's one of those categories that I don't think get enough. Like even in the major even in the major design award categories, they're always picking the flashy thing.
Mm-hmm.
But any designer knows we don't always work on the flashy thing.
Right.
So it's one of those things that I've always kind of been miffed when I see like a beautiful logo or a really cool t-shirt or an album cover. I almost kind of think anybody, that's easy because you had all that inspiration, you know, because it was a cool project to be working on. Like show me, lay out a program book, a brochure for an insurance agency, lay out something that's the nuts and bolts of what we generally work on and show me, make that look good. So we need to expand the print category because I think there's a lot of great work that doesn't get celebrated because it's not flashy or cool.
Yeah, but it could be well thought out, well structured, typography could be well chosen. And those are the things that make us all really good designers. So we need to find a way to consistently celebrate that. Because the illustration
is what pays the bills.
It is what corporate design. Oh my goodness. That's what we do a lot of.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So 46 minutes.
Was that the last shout out?
That is the last shout out, sir.
Nice.
Oh, Pope. I didn't do that.
Oh, we didn't do Pope, did we? I thought there was an illustrator we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it was Pope.
His link is in the chat.
Yeah, I got you. So I should show the thing he submitted, but I don't know if it's here. But yeah, Whitfield, Pope, he almost gave you a run for your money this time. You got lucky, kid. No, I'm kidding. You know, you deserve it. But this is definitely somebody's work that, you know, submitted and we wanted to show. I think it's well crafted. It's just well crafted, beautiful color combination, extremely sophisticated execution. Love this guy's work. Okay. Look at that mean mug. Open the mean mug. Okay, cool. All right. So that I guess is pretty much it. There are some things if y'all want to hang out, I could drop the Zoom link. Let's see. Let me stop sharing for 2 seconds. And stop sweating. Oh my goodness. Copy link. write a comment, boom. We'd be glad if y'all wanted to hang out and kind of talk about the award show and what you think we can do better, some comments about the work you've seen. And if you just want to say, hey, that's cool, we'll hang out for, the next maybe 10 minutes, but we will conclude the live presentation unless y'all are like, no, don't stop.
Appreciate all the entries. It was really heartening to see almost triple the amount of entries we had from last year. That made us feel great. It made us feel like we're doing this for a good reason.
Yeah.
And it essentially guaranteed we'll do it again.
I guarantee that, Dave. Y'all know every year I'm like,
well, no, that's you. That's because you're a pessimist. I'm an optimist today.
Yeah.
I'm an optimist right now.
I see that. Yeah. So I think Derek Whitfield is going to come on and give an acceptance speech. Wow. Derek, I'm going to mute you because I'm hearing feedback. But if you want to talk, please pull yourself off of feedback, and I am going to start pulling these. Oh, admit. All right. I'm going to start pulling down these live feeds. I'm going to pull down the one on YouTube while everybody's joining us. I don't know how to do that. Let me see. Custom live streaming. Okay. So Jordan T. Robinson.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep. I can hear you just fine. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. I am floored. I am honored. Thank you for putting me in the honorable mentions.
At work was pretty nice. Do you want to tell us anything about it?
Yeah. A short summary is that it was a branding project for a client. They're a nonprofit based in Charlotte focused on fighting for justice for people living with HIV by providing healthcare and housing. So a lot of the clients that I try to look out for are clients that are doing some sort of social good. And so I was impassioned to work with them. They wanted to do a rebrand. The only real constraints was like they wanted to stay away from red because a lot of HIV orgs use that color. And they had something called it was Carolina Cares Partnership, and Cares was an acronym for something. They wanted to get away from it, but the word care still seemed to be the main ingredient of their branding. So I was trying to see if there was any way to incorporate it. The hand itself, as Dave had mentioned about a cliche, and I was trying to find conventional ways of like what symbols that communicate caring, and an exchange of hands or holding of hands was what stuck out with me the most. And so I started going through that iteration. And as you saw, those different logo designs or different iterations of that same hand to see how I could make it work. I did not think to have the logo and the typeface have a relationship with each other. So that's kind of interesting. So I'm thinking,
yeah, you nailed that.
Yeah, because like as y'all were talking and I was looking at the thumb, I was like, that does look like almost like a calligraphy mark for like black letter typefaces. So now I kind of want to go back and see what care looks like in a black letter typeface to see if that vibes well with the logo I made.
That is a very good way to start thinking about how to pair fonts together, right?
Yeah. Gosh, so many questions, but I also don't want to take up too much time.
Okay. Well, then ask one question and then we'll move around and then we'll ask you another question. You'll get to ask another one.
All right. So the big one for me is how do y'all decide if whatever the creative decision is could be a convention, a cliche, or if it's a classic decision? For example, when you had mentioned who's the one that won? It was with the typefaces. You were saying the typeface almost looks indigenous. It's the one that had it was logo design. The person that won the logo design. I as y'all were talking about it, I was thinking about typefaces, and I remember being taught, or at least from someone I was learning from, apparently it was a convention to always use classic typefaces. So like
Oh,
Helvetica is a primary classic one, or Futura, or just any classic typefaces. And I'm kind of in the process of divorcing that convention, or I'm not even
mhm.
sure if that's even a convention or a cliche.
I think that's maybe a debate Dave and I have in a way.
Yeah, we argue about fonts a lot. Um, it's easy to get caught up in the standards. You know, I would say 20 years ago, Helvetica was in most logos. In the last 20 years, I feel like maybe Gotham or Proximo is in most logos. Um, it's just easy to get caught up in those basic choices. We were digging that font in particular because it just was it was just a different look. You know, it was the serif, but then even the serif had some flowery elements to it. It was out there. It was a thing that you wouldn't pick for your normal letterhead for an average conservative business, it was just so different.
Mhm.
But it felt like when I said classic, I meant that I think that font's going to look good 20 years from now. And I don't it's worth a conversation because I don't know why I think that. I just think that there are certain illustration styles that I think are going to look good forever. It's just yeah, it's worth a conversation. Like for instance, like I think I said with the Derek style, like his style is going to be evergreen for a long time. That there's something about that style that's just going to look good forever.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think maybe it's appealing to the math that's part of it, the symmetry that's part of it. Yeah, that's probably worth a design chat to just talk about what's classic and what's cliche. That's probably its own um design chat topic.
Yeah, but there's definitely certain merit to those things that are classic because I know Dave always says he's like, that's just this font with a slight change. I'm just going to use these. And my approach is, let me see what I'm designing and illustrating and go through all of these fonts and see which one and what they say each time. Because what I really like about that pairing is his illustration is really like almost clinical and very straight edge. But then all of a sudden you have this font that matches that's kind of like organic and tree-like, but still simplistic and organic at the same time. And I just think an amazing way to think about how to pair these things because he could have used Futura. He could have used like a really straight font, and I don't think it would have emoted as much.
Yeah.
Jordan, does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. And I think that ties into a previous topic y'all mentioned before about redefining what good design is. And
Mm,
unless if I misheard you, redefining good design without the white supremacy, essentially. I'm paraphrasing.
yeah. I know Dory Turnstile has this book out called Decolonizing Design, and she brings up some very interesting points about perspective and viewpoints for art outside of the Western narrative. So yeah, that's what we're trying to employ. It's challenging in many ways.
We have a chat planned on that actually. We just thought we just decided to have it yesterday. I don't know when we're gonna have it, but we're definitely gonna have some sort of what's the word, a town hall meeting about what should the standards be when judging work, particularly
Yeah.
as Black designers. Like
Oh,
what should we be judged against? And since we're primarily, when you look what's out there in the world, it's the establishment is what we're looking at as what we're judging against. That's obviously a bad idea. So
yeah.
we need to figure out what how to truly judge ourselves.
Yeah. And a group like our group, 2,500 people, if we really put our minds to it, we could establish like this is what we expect, coming out of our community, because this is the level of craftsmanship. It doesn't even matter the style. It's just a matter of craftsmanship and dedication, at least some visual understanding of the rules of design. So yeah, I think we can work out. Dave and I were talking about this the other day, and like we're thinking, well, maybe for this award show, we should even have it more refined, like following these principles, just to see who works within the small confine and still produces very beautiful work. But I don't know how fair that is. That's something we're talking about.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, Derek Whitfield, you want to explain the work? Oh, you got to unmute. There you go.
What's up? How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. So yeah, I'll explain it's a collaboration project I did with Black Veterans Project, but like I said, it came about last year. After I won the award for the Nipsey Hussle one, and so there's a guy named Richard Brookshire. He is one of the founders of Black Veterans Project. They're essentially trying to get reparations for veterans. Because here's my little protege right here. He's trying
bring him in. Hey,
yeah. He watches what I do a lot now, but So I did. It was Richard Brookshire. He basically is the guy who is pushing for reparations with veterans. Just through redlining and everything like that. Veterans weren't allowed to get a lot of their benefits back in the day, and so this was like a coalition. That art piece was for a coalition of veterans getting together, figuring out what they're trying to do. And so that was like the face of it. They put it on posters, pamphlets, banners. Since then, I've done at least like 2 or 3 more military projects and, a couple more in the chamber. So yeah.
Nice. And that came out of winning last year?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So like that, so pretty much, African-American graphic designers pretty much put me on the map as far as an illustrator. Like I could always do it, but as far as getting paid for it or getting compensated for it or getting illustration projects, that really came from that award last year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah
That's fantastic. I love hearing that. It makes it feel like we're doing something that makes a difference for some people.
Yeah, so the work looks different now it's like I have like less logo projects and more illustration projects. So yeah
that's not easy to accomplish.
No, not at all.
Yeah. That's incredible. I'm glad that's happening for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else want to chip in and talk about work or have any questions? Because if not, Jordan's got a few of them. Going one.
I was just typing one in the chat. Just to be polite.
Go ahead, Jordan.
So
go ahead.
with mine, I had and just in general, actually. Specifically with branding, what's that balance that you think is show and tell? Like what's a healthy balance of show and tell when you're doing portfolio building as a designer?
You mean show and tell, like the balance between the story and the work and the process?
Yeah, of showing the work and then just the written pieces that explain the work.
Wow. Yeah, it really depends. It depends on your team. It depends on your strengths. It depends on your process. I have a tendency, the successful websites I see don't have a whole lot of copy as much as they have like these big images. And then next to the image, they have probably no more than, I don't know, like 50 to 150 words of copy. But they have multiple panels. I think as long as you tell the story in a clear and concise and short manner, you're doing well, unless you've got a really phenomenal writer on your team and you want to display that. What are your opinions, Mr. McClendon?
There was a designer. We judged a show at were they seniors at ACC?
Oh yeah, seniors at ACC.
So someone had a portfolio that was so perfectly designed in terms of usability and what you would be looking for. So they introduced their case studies, so you could read what it was about, and you could just scroll down and see the progression of the project. Or they had a button that just said "jump straight to the final logo," and that was such a nice little touch of, I don't want to scroll through all this shit. You know, I just want to get to the logo, and they had it built in, just click, go straight to the logo. It's little things like that that I think are really thoughtful that a lot of people, I hadn't thought of it. So, and it's something we're working on in our own website. So the idea of presenting work and then how you show it, I think is something that doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah. I would say overall with the portfolios we look at, I would say there's not enough copy explaining their process. And I love to see sketches and thoughts and how you got to where you got. So, you know, that could depend on the art director trying to hire you too.
Yeah, sketches are big.
Mhm.
And
All right, anyone? Go ahead.
Oh, the other question I had was with illustration, because it seems like it's a balance between design and art, in terms of expression, but also you're showcasing your ability to solve visual problems. So I kind of wanted to ask what's the balance in relation of that to you two, and I extend that also to Derek since you won. I'd love to get your 2 cents on that as well in illustration.
So I'm not completely clear on the question. Is somebody completely clear on it?
Yes, the question.
Okay.
Again.
Yeah.
Ask the question again.
Yes, please.
From y'all's perspective, what do you see the relationship of illustration between being art, where it's self-expression or expressing an idea, and design, where you're solving visual problems to create the illustration?
That is a very complicated question.
I try not to waste time with bad questions.
Yeah.
I have an answer to that.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you are you asking about what's the difference, like when you do an illustration, whether it's fine art or whether it's like graphic design, where it is something that's being paid for by a client?
Not quite, more so just what's the balance between the two. I'm under the impression that it's both, but not an even split.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I think it's a difference between fine art and graphic design, because you know when you do fine art, it's an expression of whatever you feel, and you don't have a client that you are catering to or has any input as to how you do whatever it is that you want to do. So you have creative freedom, total creative freedom. Whereas if you're doing an illustration for a client that's going to use it for any type of, you know, vehicle, whether it's a brochure, a poster, or, you know, logo or whatever they're going to use it for, then to me, that's more graphic design. And that's not something that you would see in a museum. So, you know, I think you have to look at both sides of it, where you know, it's creative freedom for you. And this is something that you might put in a magazine, and you don't have a client that's driving what it is that you're doing. Because most of the time in graphic design, if you're doing something for someone for money, then, you know, sometimes they have an input or they have an opinion, whether they like this font or like this color or, you know, whatever the case is. Whereas fine art, you're free to do whatever it is you want to do because it's your expression of that art.
From my experience, I've noticed that clients will come with 3 ideas. Either they really love your art and they don't know what you're doing, and they want you to kind of guide them through the process. And I used my illustration style as a way to guide them through the process. Or they want their ideas, but within my illustration style. So I don't have that freedom. I'm just like conforming to this corporate, whatever they want, making sure it fits within their guidelines, that they can tell me anything they want to tell me about the artwork. And as long as it looks good, I don't fight them. Or the third one is they just want me for my personality and brand, and they really don't even care what I spit out. I'll be honest, I've had all 3. And so the thing I think people or illustrators think is sometimes that people are hiring them because they want this very specific thing and they want the artist to have complete control. And I think within illustration for hire, that is not normally the case. Unless you're Derek Whitfield, of course, where people just come to you because they're like, I don't even know how you do that shit. Just do it. And I'm not even smart enough to mess with you. What's your experience, Derek?
Yeah, from my experience, you know, like there is art pieces that I do create, you know, that are just purely creative freedom, like, you know, the Nipsey Hussle one I've done. You know, that's kind of explaining what, you know, Myra mentioned, and, you know, that's just creative freedom, my own, you know, art style or whatever. But I think that also, though, if you really do have a strong, different, recognizable style, that, you know, most people won't argue with you to a certain extent. So, like, you know, the project I did with Black Veterans Project, they just said, we want your style and we want a mix of the only suggestions they had were like, you know, men, women, what branch, you know. So like they definitely, one of the ones they wanted to include was the Army one. I did an illustration of, it was a lady from the 6888. That's a postal battalion. So that's the kind of suggestions they have. Not necessarily the illustration itself, but just, you know, certain details, like they want a woman, you know, they want her in the Army, this certain type of battalion. But for me, that's pretty easy to go look up that knowledge because I've served with all branches in the service. And so for me, I do tend to get a lot of leeway with my illustration because, you know, it's just, people just call it different, but, you know, they do have some, so, you know, it is a collaborative effort. There is definitely some, you know, feedback in there. So, yeah.
That's really, yeah, I like that. That's really cool to hear about the 6888. A friend of mine is writing some historical fiction about that group right now. So, and it was a story that I didn't know about until I heard about her book. So that's really cool. That
I'm about one thing away of climbing Tyler Perry's wall, man. I've been trying to get him this artwork. He's doing a movie, so yeah, it's just like a lot of attention brought to him. Yeah, oh yeah. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well,
nice.
Leif, what is your take on illustration for hire?
Yeah, it really just depends on the client. Again, anybody that's paying typically has some form of say in what they want. That's why they're soliciting you, and that could be as broad as we need an illustration for XYZ, or we need, like Derek was saying, something very specific. So again, they do have input because their input is capital. And if you're working for capital, then they have some say in what you make. In terms of, like, for animation, it's very similar to graphic design in the sense that design is communication, right? So you have to communicate whatever the client is looking for, or whatever the brief is. So it's still communication the same. It's different from, I guess, like Mario was saying, in terms of fine art, where, you know, you're doing your own thing. But in terms of character design, you're usually designing specifically around the story. So you have to convey a character and make sure that that character can act in whatever, you know, format that they want it to be. So yeah, that's my input.
Yeah, it's tough to turn that off. Like I make my art world and design worlds they're two separate worlds. But every now and then I get asked to do an illustration in my art style. It's happened like 3 or 4 times. And it is so hard to be working on it, knowing I'm not going to have final say, knowing that the client is good. So for instance, I was doing one where it was for Black experiences in the healthcare system. So the idea was to have 2 Black figures in front of the medical caduceus symbol. So I'm doing it, and then out of the blue, I find out, it also, a subset of the article is about the experience of childbirth for Black women. So I had to make one of my figures a woman and then make her pregnant, like illustrate her as pregnant. So I had to, and I'm thinking, well, that's not really working with what I'm doing. But then I had to remember, wait a minute, yeah, this isn't for me. This isn't a piece that I'm going to put in a gallery necessarily. This is the client. This fits what the article's about. This fits what they're trying to get across in terms of the experience of Black women. So then it almost becomes like a mission. Like, okay, it's like I have a thing I'm trying to communicate. This isn't just what's in my mind or my heart. This is, I'm expressing the facts from an actual article that can have ramifications for the health of Black women later. So now it's like, okay, I need to work on communicating that. So to me, it's about, I think pretty much what Leif said, your client's paying you to communicate their problem or solve their problem or communicate their goal.
Jordan, does that work for you?
That works for me and beyond. Thank y'all so very much.
Of course. Noble Daniel, what is it, like 2 a.m.?
Yeah, 2 a.m. time.
It's 2 a.m. Thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to talk about? You wanted to add anything?
I think you are doing pretty awesome, and I mean it's a great thing that you're looking together and looking how you can make the competition more better, the submissions and everything more better. So it's a great thing. David mentioned something about trying to have a standpoint of judgment, like having a standpoint to make judgments, and that's a good thing.
Right.
So these are parameters to get the community to make their works being featured. I mean, to make them to know which is the winner and which one is to promote first and which one to give second again. So once we get our parameters then we can build on that. As time goes on, the future competitions that we have in the future competitions, we build on that continuously, and that way it gives it also makes sense if you take more data. Like for instance, what are the data in this one? What are the issues you had with these current campaigns and current submissions? What are the issues you encountered? What were the problem? Get reviews from them, understand how you can make it much better. Like for instance, I had an issue. With submission. I wanted to submit, but I just got occupied with a lot of stuff. I forgot, so I was not able to submit. It came to me, but when I wanted to submit, I tried to see if I could submit, but the link was expired, stuff like that, and it just happened to be that way, so I didn't submit. So, but it's a good thing that the community is evolving, and you're striving for excellence. You're doing your best you and Dave are doing a great job. So at the moment, what I'm currently doing, I'm currently testing out this software. It's called ClimbJoy. It's a project management software. I just got it, so that's what it's for. I'm trying to see how it works. So that's on my way this time.
Okay. All right.
So you said you entered and the link was expired?
Yep, I tried. There was an extension.
Right.
There was an extension. It was an extension of it's meant to be. Let's say it's meant to be expired today. And then, like for instance, 23rd is the final day to submit. But there was this announcement saying, there will be an extension for, let me say, till Monday. So I tried to log and come to submit within the extended period of time, but it didn't come through. Like it didn't work. So.
Oh no. Okay.
Okay.
If you could offer, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was saying it expired within that time period. So I'm just submitting I'm just letting you know what happened so we can actually take that and record.
Okay. So I do have a question here. Are you in Nigeria?
Yeah, currently in Nigeria, sir.
Yeah. Do you feel that people from your community have a certain design style? And do you believe that design style, if there is one, is globally accepted?
Is globally what?
Globally accepted.
That last question point. Of course, we have Nigerians have a style of art, and everyone has their own uniqueness. They have their own story to tell. They have where they came out from. Everyone has their own signature of art. So the way I design might not be the way you design. The the way I see things may not be the way you see things. So what really matters is how much excellence you put into your work. You know, for me, I want to do that as a language. How much excellence do you want to put in your work that makes it stand out? You know, so there's no particular design pattern that I want to say, oh, this is the general one that is accepted globally. You can bring in a particular kind of design and bring in juice out of it. You can put a lot of excellence and make it unique that it brings attention to you. So instead of sticking of what the static will work with, you can actually create something unique from yourself, how you work, you know, and then go from there. So there's this lady that has her unique, her pattern of arts are completely different. She does something called Afrocentric design, Afro-modern kind of design, where she integrates African pattern culture to evolve. So like she integrates African culture to make it modern, more like an Afro-tech kind of feeling. You know, so that's what she does in the design, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you see her work, it brings a lot of inspiration. So that's, I've forgotten her name right now. I'm showing her portfolio. It makes it works out so clearly. So everyone has their own pattern of design. I have my own pattern of design. My own pattern is different, is unique. You know, I have my signature language, and that is excellence. So that's, everyone has their own uniqueness. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, understood. Make sure you drop that woman, her work in the group, man. I'd love to see it. Okay. Well, does anybody else have anything to add or ask? Amelia? Bunmi?
I was just coming in to say hello and thank you.
Hey! All right. I'll give.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
question.
Yes.
Yeah, you're talking about a style aesthetic when it comes to African American or Black people. What exactly would you say, or how can you tell whether something is aesthetically designed by an African American person or another person of color? I mean, I'm just not getting what that aesthetic should be or what it should look like.
Well, that's the reason for the town hall meeting.
Yeah.
I don't think we necessarily do know collectively. I think it's, or individually, I think it's something that we can come together and have a conversation about. What is it? Like what is that aesthetic, and how do we judge a contest without allowing the pollution of 50 to 75 years of the establishment's design aesthetic screwing up what we're trying to do and how we're trying to instruct design and coach people on what to do, and then, you know, celebrating in the right way. Not just celebrating someone's design because it reminded us of something else, but because it was unique to the culture which created it. So I think that we don't know necessarily, and that's what the town hall chat would be about.
Well, but I mean, I look at design, you know, I've been in design since 93. I'll just say 93. But the thing of it is, I feel like conceptual is the most important thing that you look at in design, because I think we all, as, you know, African American people, have been, you know, raised primarily in United States. And so to me, what your brain thinks up conceptually, that's how you judge whether the work is visually communicating the message.
That's what we should do, but I don't believe white people do that. I think if there was a strong concept that looked like one thing and then it was influenced by another perspective, they would be more likely to say that other perspective is somehow diminished, but their perspective is more correct, when technically the concept is the same. I think that's what they've done with people's culture throughout the history of the world.
Yeah, but I just don't see how if I was creating, say, a poster that was about, African American history or a festival or something like that, then I would look at, different images. I would think of different fonts to use. I would, really think about conceptually, what that whole, I'm not going to say, what, doing all the research, if it was something that, say, like Gabby did with the Gaelic people, you do the research, you do all the stuff that has influenced these people and trying to communicate this festival and what would be the best concept. And it could be a font that looks, more ethnic, as or it could be something that she drew by hand that could be more contemporary, or could be more the Gaelic people. I think that's South Carolina that they may have.
Oh, Gullah. Yeah,
Gullah.
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 Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I say Gaelic. I'm sorry, Gullah.
No.
But then, you see something else that is, say, more like a poster that I'm saying that I did for that I wanted to, where it was a combination of, it was called the Urban Renaissance. So I had to look at what Urban Renaissance was and how to make that be communicated to people. And I did it in a, an illustration style where I used, went back to the Roman columns, and then went back to, the Roman columns on one side being traditional, and then on the other side, the Urban Renaissance is when they have taken these houses and they have, went in and made these houses all these different colors, they're contemporary colors.
So I would say that, yeah, but that we're still using stuff that's generated from like Western culture, as opposed to like, well, maybe there was an Asian Renaissance, or maybe there was a Chinese Renaissance, or maybe there was an African. I mean, we seemingly are very focused on these things that have been taught to us, and it excludes other cultures. And so I think about what would happen if they didn't, through cultural imperialism, squash all these ideas from these other cultures that have been generating artwork in systems of language before they were colonized. And those systems of language are being erased. And those systems of language, I believe, would have contributed to a different perspective of the design industry if that didn't happen.
Well, I mean, I understand, to me, like I told you about that book about the lady that is the professor.
Dory. Yeah. In Canada.
Yeah. And she puts Indigenous people first, Indigenous people being the Indian. Well, if I was, doing something that had to do with the Indian culture, or maybe I decide, oh, well, I want to use some of the fonts that look like Indian type fonts, what would people still get it? Or does that mean that, I should be, trying to be, putting their stuff out there for them to be correct, to be politically correct, and using, their language or the way that they were, seen in the world. I mean, it's just like if I took something and made something that was Indian, like Indian people, using, like, I tell you a good example. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna hold on one second, because I see what you're saying, but the thing that everyone is pushing is getting to know that culture deeply enough to either understand how to use properly their symbols, or work with somebody within that community to help guide you so that you won't do anything offensive. Because as designers, we have a tendency to think about what we know and what's structural and what looks good, but really it's about communicating to a very specific culture. And if you're not a part of that culture, then how do you even know your design with all of the education that we have is even resonating?
That's where you do the research. That's where the research comes in. And I think a lot of designers don't, they don't do the research. They don't look up what the word means, or what the, what the brief is telling them. They are just, trying to get the work done or whatever, but you have to do the research. That's what is so great about being in the design world, that you have to be able to do a lot of different things and know a little bit about a lot of different things. And you have to know how to go to the library and do the research on what it is that you are supposed to be communicating. And that's where I think a lot of people fall short, because they don't want to do the research. They just want to get on the computer, and that's not how it's done.
Well,
And
some of us enjoy the research, though. Does anybody else want to add to the conversation?
yeah, I'm sorry.
Does anybody else? Leif, I see you writing some stuff, and Jordan, I see you writing some stuff. Do y'all want to contribute, or you want us to
Sure, I'll
continue?
contribute.
Okay.
This is bring up a couple of things. So I recently did a logo design for a family reunion. Long story short, on mom's side of the family, we did some DNA tests and some research, and it looks like we might have some ties to Ghanaian, like some tribes in in Ghana, as well as like Nigeria, Togo, and Benin. Also partly Batu. Anyway. So with all that, and with sort of how things have been, which is really our efforts to just reconnect with our cultural ancestors, to see where in Africa might we have come from, I started looking at some African symbols in those areas, particularly in Ghana, and started creating a logo that was fusing the meanings of them. For one of the designs, I infused the Sankofa symbol with the name escapes me, but with another, and it was this idea of like perseverance by, the intended interpretation is this perseverance by respecting the past. And so to kind of what I think Terrence and Myra are talking about is like this form of communication, but also to Myra's point about the need to do the research to understand that. Now, granted, this just came from an article that I found online, so I'm not quite sure how authentic it is, but it's at least a start. And I'm still doing the research to kind of fine tune that out. And then there were some folks that sent me some stuff to understand, or at least because my knowledge of Black typographers is null. So, but they do exist. So I need to go back and look at that research and get caught up. But I think I'm kind of living through what y'all are talking about in this idea of how to create something that has, whether it's our culture or another culture in, without accidentally appropriating it, or at least minimizing the harm that comes from cultural appropriation. We all Black, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're all still in tune with the same cultural ecosystems that we're from.
That's why it's going to be such a great town hall meeting when we do get it on the books. Like, I feel like it's going to be knock down, drag out.
Yeah, the forever conversation.
I think it is a mix of the different ecosystems we're from, and like Myra said, you just cracking open the books. I know, for instance, I know there's a quote on my portfolio, and it says, I got it from a guy, I can't pronounce his name, but I'll post it's a TED Talk to the group, and he kind of speaks about this. And he says, Africans struggle with all forms of design. They are more apt to look outward for influence and inspiration instead of inward. And I was like, wow, it kind of stuck with me, because, I was like, how, as a graphic designer who creates from I feel a Black perspective, how can I create from a Black perspective when I don't know, about tribes or symbols or those things. And so I started to, research those things. This is while in college, but I do come from an ecosystem. I'm from the 90s. I'm from MTV, BET generation, and Living Color. When I think of typography, I think of stuff like In Living Color, Family Matters, cartoons like Tom and Jerry, that kind of stuff. I use all of that stuff. And so I don't think there's really not one set way to design in an Afro, from an Afrocentric perspective. I think all of us come from different eras, different parts of the world, and we fuse all of that in. And I think that's what culture is you're just, it's a fusion of your experience, your real life experience, your knowledge, education and everything. And that's what it is, instead of what the rules are supposed to be, so yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So when we have the town hall, you got to be there.
Of course.
So you can say that all over again.
Yeah.
Oh, we got.
I also want to be there.
Okay,
Sure.
we'll work that out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know it's 9:30 in some places,
Yeah.
so I think we're gonna wrap it up. And I love seeing all of y'all, and I'm so glad y'all were a part of this Black May Life. It's always good seeing you. And we'll be throwing out some programming. Camille and Gabby and a couple of other people are working on it. So we hope to see y'all again sometime soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all so much.
Have a good night.
Thank you for
Bye-bye.
everything.
Bye.
Thank you.